This camp right here.
All right, let's go. Good morning, everybody. Once more, my name is Kino Rayman. I am professor and chairperson of the Department of Economics and Finance here at Medgar College. We're here at our main event today, after the breakfast. And so I will invite our co-host, Dr. Antoinette Coleman, to bring greetings once more to the larger audience. Dr. Coleman.
Good morning and welcome to Medgar College. For those of you who are coming for the first time and for those of you who are returning, we're happy to have everyone here today. On behalf of the president, I would like to welcome you as well as myself again. And we are so excited to have UNDP and USAID here to engage in many dialogues and many opportunities to see how we can engage in the numerous international issues that we are facing in our world today. We are always, and I'm academic, so I'm going to be a little partial here. We are always wanting our students to have the highest quality education, and international education is most important. And for our students to understand the many, many opportunities for them, both domestically and internationally. But one of the great things about Medgar College, if you're not aware, is that we are the #1 school in CUNY with social justice, and you will hear our president say this, in our DNA. So that's what we are all about, both domestically and internationally. So as you move through the program today, please enjoy the dialogue. Please enjoy the nuances that you may learn, and always know that Medgar is here, and we are the institution that supports activities both domestically and internationally. Thank you so much, and I want to also thank all of our representatives from UNDP and USAID for traveling today and being a part of this program. Thank you so very much.
Once more, we thank our co-host, Dr. Coleman. Our next stage of the program is to introduce the panelists that represent the organizations that are here today to discuss with us the international initiatives that we have been working in for the last several years, at least 3 years. Each panelist will have 15 minutes to brief us. I will introduce them each come on the stage. Dr. Farid Muhammad of the Distance Learning Project, who has been working with us. The International Distance Learning Initiative has been very successful. We have been working with the delivering courses to African operatives, officials, not just from Medgar College, but from around the country, also the Caribbean. So this is not a small project, been supported by the UNDP for the most part. The other person is Dr. Raymond Gilpin. Am I correct? Okay. So Raymond, from UNDP Africa, he will talk about envisioning African diaspora engagement. The other person is Dr. Clinton White. Clinton White? All right. Clinton White is from the USAID, empowering HBCUs, PBIs, and MSIs, minority serving institutions. Each panelist will have 15 minutes. There'll be an interactive session after that, beginning about 10 a.m. And then we'll have the student panelists. The student panelists will be invited to speak on the microphone. And when they are done, by about 11 o'clock, we will then have a conversation with our community partners, being the panelists here. So the panelists don't have to leave the stage. They will stay on stage until the student panelists are done. And then they will continue after the student panelists. So by 11:55, hopefully, we will conclude our session. So thank you once more, Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Gilpin, Dr. Clinton White. So we will begin with Dr. Farid Muhammad.
Thank you so very much, and to all the distinguished members of the audience, the kind, gracious hospitality has been extended to us by Medgar Evans' administration, and especially Dr. Joanne Rowe. I'm not sure that the material be available to work. If not,
Your slides are up on the podium.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about the video.
Well, if not, we can sort of reach out from this point. It doesn't matter.
Let's at least check for the slide.
Okay. If the slides are at least available, that might help, and then that would allow us to stay within the time frame, also just highlight some of the major points. The PowerPoints come up?
Did you send me?
Yeah, they were sent.
Yes, the power.
If not, let us not waste time. We'll simply go from. Basically, let me try to just very briefly give an introduction to how this all came about and how the pattern of the collaboration that you see represented on the stage here between the Office of HBCU Development and International Cooperation and with the UNDP Bureau for Regional Bureau for Africa and USAID, which is the U.S. Agency for International Development. In September of 2019, during the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which is held annually, one of the major side events that took place was a collaboration between the HBCU community, which involved the network of us who had been working with another organization called the International Human Rights Association of American Minorities. This is a United Nations NGO, non-governmental organization, that works in collaboration and has consultative status with the UN ECOSOC, that is the Economic and Social Council. Within that framework, we had submitted an intervention during one of the council sessions, which called for the collaboration among an independent collaboration among a network of HBCUs, PBI, so predominantly Black institutions of higher education, and also other sectors of the MSI or the minority serving institutions here in the United States. As a result of that intervention, which took place in 2015, we were invited by the State Department of the United States and the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. to submit an additional intervention, which called for the independent creation of a network of organizations of individuals that basically were supportive of the HBCU community recognizing that they represented almost singularly an institutional network and framework that was already in place that could help facilitate, in terms of collaboration with UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, Regional Bureau for Africa, the implementation of what the United Nations refers to as UN Agenda 2030. Now, many of you might or might not be familiar with this, but this involves the implementation of 17 major overarching sustainable development goals, all of which are intended to help ameliorate and address the collective social development, educational, health areas, socioeconomic, gender discriminatory processes, partnership building apparatus that might be available both domestically, regionally, and internationally to help facilitate international development. And the target has been and still remains the 2030. That's why it's called 2030. There's an allied structure that has also been designed by the African Union, which is referred to as African Agenda 2063, which is part of a collaboration model that exists, also targeting for areas of economic social development throughout the continent. Within that framework, there is sometimes, as many of you who are familiar with the African Union, there is a reference to the 5 major continental regions, which exist within that geopolitical framework. But there is also a reference to what is referred to many times as the 6th region. And that represents peoples of African descent throughout the entire diaspora internationally, which is collectively estimated to be about 170 million people. So it's within that type of general overarching framework that we targeted many of our structures and strategies toward areas of collaboration. In September 23rd, 2019, during the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa. So that's sort of the starting point. So having sort of given that background, there were some other things I was going to try to share visually that might help reinforce that. But if you bear with me, since I don't have reference to the screen and I don't want to bore you with some of the stats, one of the targeted activities within the memorandum, the first objective or activity that has been identified is to work every year in collaboration with UNDP Africa. We would have an annual event at the margins of the UN General Assembly, which would afford us the opportunity to reassess where we are in terms of the memorandum and the 9 activities that are prescribed or mandated within that framework. That is the first goal. The first objective is that we would do an audit every year of ourselves and our collective activity. Item 3 under that area sort of targets what is referred to as Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which deals with the issue of educational expansion and development throughout the entire African diaspora, and more particularly within Africa itself, where there would be an attempt to build partnerships between African-based universities and other universities of higher education throughout the African diaspora. Within that framework, we developed consistent with item 3 of that agenda, is the development of what is referred to as the International Development Learning Initiative, or the IDLI. Since the summer of 2021, we have worked and identified and collaborated with 229 students internationally. We do this in collaboration with their summer programs. So we try not to recreate the wheel. We identify collaborating HBCU institutions that have already arranged for their normal summer sessions. We do not try to have students necessarily at this stage participate in any degree-based program. We worked with 229 students over the past 3 years. I can give you some of the stats that otherwise would have been presented in the slides, but I'll just do this. Bear with me, please. We had, of those 229 students, 149 were male, 82 or 35% were female. We had, of those students also, their educational level, most of them already had above baccalaureate training. They were doing this basically for self-development and to reinforce the activities that they were also professionally engaged in at the local community level in the continent. 114 or 49% had bachelor's degrees, 97% had master's degrees, 10 were doctorates, or roughly 4%. There were 7 or 3% had law degrees, and there was 1 medical doctor who was engaged in the project. The African countries that were represented cut across 26 countries. They were Botswana, Eswatini, Burundi, Chad, the Dominican Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Maurice, Namibia, Niger, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Swaziland, Tanzania, Togo, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And of those nations, 26 nations, there were about 5 that had the highest levels of representation, with Nigeria and Ghana representing the 2 most frequently attending students. I would say they constituted about maybe close to 40% of the total population. Of the universities that were participating from the HBCU community, there were roughly 15 thus far. Alabama A&M University, Central State University, Clark Atlanta University, Fisk University, Hampton, Howard University, Jarvis Christian University, the University of Guyana, Langston University, Medgar Evers College, Morris Brown College, Shaw University, Stillman College, Texas Southern University, and the University of the District of Columbia. In collaboration with USAID, or the United Nations Aid for International Development, in May of last year, 2023, we entered into a second memorandum of understanding, and that was initiated just last year. We came on board with them at that time, and in October of last year, between October 16th and 18th, I believe, we had a roadshow that was facilitated in the city of Chicago, and we networked with additional institutions at that time there in that area. One was the American Islamic College, Olive Harvey College, and a community-based program called the Austin African American Business Networking Association, which is working on a very well-noted program in Chicago called the Soul City Corridor. Now, all of this is done with initially no budget at all. We had to be very creative and resourceful based upon whatever could be used to generate initial funds to allow us to set up operations in the summer of 2021. There were 3 basic donor organizations that were involved, and they were obviously the UN Regional Bureau for Africa. They contributed about 67%. We have a total budget that thus far has involved about a total of $177,000, and 67% of that thus far had been generously donated by UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa. Through our memorandum of last year, though there's no financial obligated, mandated financial commitment on either side, we basically creatively came up with this process, and through the gracious collaboration of Councilor White and the agency, they donated as of last year $50,000, or 28% of that amount. We cobbled together roughly $7,000 as an organization, and we kicked in that amount that gave us the $177,000 that we worked with thus far. Basically, we're looking for what has happened within those programs. We've offered a wide array of classes dealing with economics, community development, education, all of the areas that basically are cross sectors that are in alignment with the UN SDGs. And those particular, I'm fasting, so my mouth is a little dry, so please forgive me. All of those areas basically collaborate with programs that were already available and that were already operational during the summer session at the respective universities that I already mentioned. So it was somewhat easy, though we had to tailor it to meet the particular timing needs of the students. There were obvious differences in time arrangement. Some of those classes were synchronous, other classes were asynchronous to accommodate the particular student populations that were involved. And as I said, we thus far have collaboratively worked with 229. We're hoping to serve this coming summer We're hoping to serve 200 African-based students. We hope to increase over the next 3 years, at least 100 students each successive year. We then challenge to raise resources to meet the program needs that would be necessary to support such activity. And we certainly hope to expand the participation of HBCUs and other TBIs and other NSIs during the course of the next several years. And to do that, we need to form partnership with other African universities, as well as expanding the network of the HBCUs with which we presently work. I'll sort of stop here. And so that is a basically very, very quick capsule of what we've been doing up to date. At this point, it sort of provides a context of how the memorandum that have been signed with both UNDP Africa and with USAID has come about. And we're very proud and appreciative of the type of support we have received thus far, and we hope that it will continue. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Mohammed, for the presentation. We are hopeful, confident that these activities will continue over the next years and continue to grow and continue to develop for the benefit of not only institutions but our communities. The next presenter will be Dr. Reverend Gilpin. He has a few minutes. I'm going to time it. Dr. Reverend Gilpin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. And it's a great pleasure to be here at Medgar College. It actually is my first time visiting, even though I work just across the river, but I've always wanted to come here because this college feels like hallowed ground. It is where a lot, I actually was moved listening to the provost this morning saying that this college has social justice in its DNA, and it really does. And I'm really proud to be associated with this event because I think it's important. I work for the United Nations Development Program, the Africa Bureau, and we have development in our DNA. We are the only United Nations organization or agency that's exclusively tasked with figuring out this thing we call development. And to a large extent, development is all about social justice. And so the confluence of our initiative and Medgar College cannot be more pronounced and immediate. So what does all of this mean? I think conceptually, when you think about development, most people think about development aid or development assistance or development in terms of the financial or economic side of development. That was true between 1948 and 1990. In 1990, UNDP changed the way the world thinks about development. We introduced something called the Human Development Index that looks not only at the income side of development, but includes also the social side. We brought in indicators around education and health. And this has actually formed the foundation, not just of what we do as an agency, but how the world thinks about development. We are currently implementing a 5-year plan. We have rolling 5-year plans. And that plan has a number of what we call moonshots, things we would like to do over 5 years, relating to poverty, lifting 100 million people out of poverty. Clean energy, providing clean energy worldwide to 500 million people. Governance, accompanying 800 million people to the polling booth. Development financing, working with the private sector to raise $1 trillion to finance development. All of this is based on this conceptual shift I was talking about. And this conceptual shift is only possible when we also view it beyond the traditional models that underpin development. If we have economists in the house, they will understand that the thinking behind how countries develop is predicated upon an understanding of how much could a country produce, then save, and then those savings are invested in development. And that model is called the savings investment gap model. We've been doing this since 1948 with very mixed results worldwide. We can't look back on the last 6-7 decades with unquestioned pride. Definitely something more is needed. And that is where at UNDP we recognize that there's also a capacity and innovation gap. That just savings investment is not really getting us where we need to go. We also need to invest in human capacity a little bit more, and also in innovation, because a lot of the development challenges that we contend with today are, a product of very little thought being given to new and innovative ways to improve food production, to improve logistics for industrialization, to improve and reduce barriers to trade, to ensure that healthcare is available to as many people as needed. And it is this capacity and innovation gap that drives us as an agency to collaborate with Dr. Farid Mohammed and the Office for HBCU Development, all of the HBCUs who are involved in this initiative, more recently USAID as well, because we are convinced that the answer to most of the development challenges does not lie in Midtown East or places like that. It lies in educational institutions like Medgar Evans. Institutions that understand that development has also got to be about social justice. That development has to do with the individual. And listening to Dr. Farid, you'd wonder, okay, 200 and some people, maybe we need to scale up. And I'm saying yes and maybe. If we've impacted the right 200 odd people, it's a beginning of a revolution, not just in terms of thinking, but more importantly, doing. And we come at this from, we come at this initiative from that perspective. That it's not just something else we would like to do, because we can, but it's something that we believe can, should, and must be transformative. Because the plurality of people on this planet are living way below poverty levels, but at the same time, they have such enterprise and capacity that initiatives like this can unlock. And so we are proud to be associated with the IDLI. I look forward to continue working with you all in moving it forward. And as we scale up, how do we then move from diaspora educational institutions to diaspora technology solutions and diaspora financial instruments that make this ecosystem more potent and also more sustainable? Thank you very much.
Mr. Gilpin, you still have plenty of time. Let's take a look at this. You're done. Thank you very much. And gives the Q&A section, you might be able to elaborate some more. So our next presenter will be Clinton White. We will talk about USAID, empowering HBCU and PBIs and minorities organizations. Take 15 minutes, so please take your time. I'll let you know if you run out of time, but I don't think you will have. You have some of this time. Then I will see you. Thank you. So you can do that.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for allowing me to be here today. I'm very happy. My name is Clinton White. I work for the United States Agency for International Development. I've been with the agency for over 22 years. I came in as a foreign service officer, so I had the opportunity to live abroad in most of the continents, a good deal of our time in Africa, the Middle East, the Caribbean, Asia. And I also would like to invite Adetola Yade, who is our assistant to the administrator for our human resources, to also join me up here as part of it. She knows New York really well. She makes her way up. But as she makes her way up, because when we talk about social justice, I like to allow my time to others as well. But I also want to thank Dr. Ramsey and the Provost and Dr. Coleman for this opportunity to speak to Medgar Evers College faculty and students. I'd also like to thank our audience, particularly those representing minority service institutions and historically black colleges and universities represented here today. I also want to thank my colleagues for joining us from our USAID, Bailey, Shiraj from Pakistan, Stephen from our UN office as well. This is a collaboration and a team effort. But I also want to thank Dr. Joanne Wool, who I feel is my road trip partner. Not only traveled together and we're in Pakistan for a historic event that took place, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But even when we signed the MOU, I remember we came all the way down from New York to DC to be there to witness that and be a part of that. Dr. Terrence Blackman, thank you for what you mentioned about Guyana. I was the regional representative for Eastern and Southern Caribbean, so I was working in Guyana, working on helping them to understand the oil and revenue and how to set up policies or structures. So very much interested in putting you in touch with our new representative down there to see how we can continue to build that relationship. And then Dr. Ken Irish, thank you so much. Dr. Donna Wright, chairperson, thank you for your story and moving story. You have me coming up now to say something as well about social justice in my family. And Dr. Emmanuel Igbe, thank you for what you had mentioned. But also Dr. Price. It's interesting that we sat at the same table, but then I saw, how you came and welcomed yourself to me and shook my hand very, stoic. And then I saw you dapping up all the other professors. And the way I said, oh, why didn't you dap me up like that? So I owe you one. But I also want to thank my colleague, Dr. Raymond Gilpin, Chief Economist and Head Strategy Analyst and Research for UNDP and the Regional Bureau for Africa, as well as Dr. Fareed Mohammed, who has become like a brother to me in our work and engagement. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Nigel Salina, who is here today, who is the reason who has brought Dr. Fareed and I together. And as we see this relationship growing, he's the one that helped to plant that seed. So thank you for doing that, Nigel. Now, I had all these points I wanted to raise, but I'm a disruptive thinker and doer, so I'm going to go off script a little bit. But And this is really, given what I heard from Dr. Wright and hearing what I've been hearing about Medgar Evers College, I feel, very humbled to be here today at the college. And also remembering, one of the things that I did when I was in the Caribbean is we signed a memorandum of understanding with Alcorn State University. And I know everybody, I'm not gonna have to give a quiz, knows who went to Alcorn State University and had a degree there. And for me, when we went down there to sign this MOU, one of the first trips that they took us on was to his memorial site. And, knowing about his history, knowing about my Lula White, who was one of the original freedom riders who was locked up in the prison in Mississippi. It all sort of comes full of knowing who we are and why we need to continue this fight that we call social justice. Now, I also grew across the river, not too far from New York. Maybe the Tappan Bridge I had was over, but in Connecticut and New Haven, where I grew up, at a very young age, I can remember my mother cooking one day, and she made some good food, but she also made Brussels sprouts. And I didn't like Brussels sprouts, but she told us, my brother and I, that we had to eat. And, we were very bitter about that and didn't want to eat that. But, mother said eat it, so we ate it. And, but the next day, she had put, and I don't know if you all remember Time magazine when they used to have the big printed magazine covers. She had cut out and put on our refrigerator door the famine that was taking place in East Africa. And to see the pictures of those people, those Africans with their stomachs out, just hungry, not having any food at all. My mother said, I want you to remember every time you go into this refrigerator, how these people are starving. And that made me always realize about not wasting food, regardless of whatever I have. And it also made me think about the whole social justice and wanting to get more involved and wanting to be more active in my own society, as my parents had started the NAACP or restarted it in New Haven, becoming a member of the youth NAACP and marching and hoping that we would get a Martin Luther King Day, which finally came. But it also made me think about the world and looking at it in a different lens and knowing that at some point in my life, regardless of whatever struggles or challenges, I was going to do this international development work and work overseas and helping other countries as well as helping back here in the US. And never letting go of that dream and now being able to see it as a reality. And I think it's so important for all of us, especially the young people, to realize that, you are valued, you're worth something, we're all worth something, and we need to continue to value others and value ourselves, and not to give up on anything that we think we might not be able to do because somebody else says that might not be for you. But always remember, it is for you. If that's what you want, you can actually achieve it. So let me bring back a little bit to why we're here today. And again, thanking Dr. Fareed and my counterpart here, Dr. Raymond from UNDP, as he had mentioned, this program and activity that we're looking forward to continuing that collaboration and growing it together, which is so important. But in our business, especially when I speak about UNDP and USAID, we also share, and Medgar Evers and others, we also share similar objectives and have a rather overwhelming remit when you think about it. We all foster social, economic, and political stability. We support democratic reform. We help to reduce poverty by creating jobs. And we support workforce development aligned with technological change. We support food and water security. We invest in clean energy and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We also protect natural habitats and threatened species. We help local communities to reduce air pollution, improve sanitation, manage waste, and conserve water. We help to eradicate life-threatening practices like female mutilation. And we contribute to programs that provide emergency humanitarian assistance. We exist to solve these and other problems on a global scale, but we cannot do so alone. First, we don't have a monopoly on good ideas. Second, we don't have infinite resources to accomplish these tasks. And third, we don't have the luxury of time to accomplish all that we need to do. So for these reasons, we're always looking for talent. We're looking for help, how to gain closure. I think that answer, we look both to your ideas, to our inventory of needs. Then it becomes a matter of initiative and matching one with the other, which not coincidentally becomes the basis for our partnership, not only with historically Black colleges and universities, but with minority service institutions, all of those represented here today. One of the things I did want to mention in our work that we've been doing a lot more of and reaching out and partnering, and I'm hoping that we'll continue to work and partner with not only Medgar College, but our organization of HBCUs, Ds, with Dr. Fareed Muhammad. One of those institutions, I believe, is Tuskegee University. And recently in Nepal, we had worked together with Tuskegee University because we understand that Nepal owns one of the slowest growing economies in all Asia and relies on agriculture for 24% of GDP. Agriculture employs 6 of every 10 people and 3 of every 4 working women. So you see the problem. Tuskegee University is working with a local organization on a 5-year, $5 million contract or grant to improve agricultural productivity in the partnership with Nepal's Agriculture and Forestry University through improved research and teaching methodologies critical to Nepal's economic development, improved nutrition, and improved skills for its young population. This is not by accident. We need to ensure that we are working with everyone. When we speak about social justice, it's also about being more inclusive. And that is exactly what USAID is looking at. We are looking at how do we ensure that we increase our partner base? How are we ensuring that through our localization efforts, that even those in the most remote areas are being included and have a voice at the table? And ensuring that even here in the US, that we're expanding our partners to ensure that other institutions like HBCUs, like minority service institutions, are part of helping us solve these global problems. Because the same problems that we're solving globally are the same that are problems that are here in our own backyard. And we have to be able to work together to think more inclusively and collaboratively of how we solve this and move it forward. I do want to mention just a couple of more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of my great partners, Adetola. But when we speak about USAID and our development, one of the things that I want to talk about is our Progress Beyond Programs policy, which summarizes in simple, substantive, and straightforward language, global problems as we see them and our role as we see it. It offers both a pragmatic framework and a philosophical statement on how we intend to do business now and in the future. I think it's worthwhile to pause and reflect on a key statement from that policy because of its relevance here and importance for all of us. Progress Beyond Program speaks to a return to the earliest days of foreign assistance and references the Marshall Plan, the Alliance for Progress, and the Green Revolution, and the reliance on bilateral and multilateral partners, private sector investments. And here's a key point: strengthening local capacity and emphasis on local decision. To me, that says USAID is engaged in a reset influenced by the philosophy of the past. We're relevant, but free to improvise as the situation may dictate, balancing the conceptual with the attention to detail needed to define and then solve for problems while recognizing that to succeed, we need always to remember we work in a local context. For me, that says to succeed, we need to be sensitive to basic human feelings. If our task is to improve beneficiary standard of living, meaning a job, a safe home, safe streets, food, clean air, clean water, and education for children, healthcare, and the freedom to express their views without fear, we need to remain sensitive and respectful in both actions and words. In short, we need to identify with those whom we serve. I also just want to conclude before I turn it over to Adetola to say that I feel here we'll have a great discussion about what it is and how we can better collaborate, how we can solve these issues together, and how, as I said earlier, each of us value ourselves, value those around us, value our institutions, continue to work together to ensure that this is a safer place, not only for us, but for the younger people in this next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, and, Ms. Dejola.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, you have 10 minutes. Then we'll go to interactive session with our panelists.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you. Thank you, Clinton. He surprised me with this opportunity to speak, but but I will say this, I know why. First of all, I just want to thank you all for hosting us and for being a wonderful audience, but and to all of the speakers who are here on the stage. My name is Adetola Abiadi, and I'm the assistant to the administrator for our Human Capital Talent Management Organization at USAID. And when Counselor White decided to come down here, he let me know, and I said, oh, I miss my home, my second home, which is New York, New York City. So I lived here for 18 years, and I answered the call to accept an opportunity at USAID when I was living here in New York during the pandemic. Working on Wall Street, working in financial services, had a long career here, but it wasn't enough for me because I couldn't sit home knowing that people were suffering at that time, and during that time of George Floyd, just knowing that my work didn't feel meaningful. So by a chance of fate, I had an opportunity to answer a call for an opening at USAID, which often happens in life. A call happens, and you pick up the phone and you answer, and you welcome an opportunity, and from there it leads you to something else. And I had the opportunity to meet with the team, and then here I am 2 years later. I am a child of Nigerian immigrants who came here many, many years ago, hoping to go to school and go back. But as we hear these stories about what does it mean to go back home when the environment is tough, going back to Lagos at that time, my parents left everything behind. So my whole family is actually still in Nigeria right now. So it's my parents, I was the firstborn. I came, and then 3 other sisters came, and they stayed here. So I didn't grow up rich with a lot of access to too much, but the one thing that my parents instilled in me is the importance of education. They came here to go to school. And so everything in my life has been guided around the fact that hearing our colleagues up here talk about the power, about the institution of learning and the hallowed ground here that we are on here at Medgar Evers, it just speaks to me so much, so humbly, because I wouldn't be here without knowing that the institution and knowing that learning is revolutionary is what drives me every single day. Learning is a right. Learning, when we all learn individually, that's our form of our own self-social justice, right? It's our superpower in giving access to learning to those that we work with here domestically and overseas, and the way that we bring people together. In my role at USAID, I feel so fortunate and so grateful because people are our greatest asset. Without any of you in this room, right? Nothing would be possible because we bring our talents, we bring our gifts, we bring our hopes, our dreams, and it's a force multiplier. Because when you want to do good in the world, and I forget the kind woman upstairs who said, by just dropping a stone, like a pebble, right? In the ripple effect of that. So when we reach one, each one, teach one, that is a powerful, powerful tool. And at USAID, what inspires me every day is the fact that we are developing, growing, hiring, recruiting, retaining folks who want to go out into the world and give back. But you have to think about what are the skills of the future that enable that. What are those talents? What are those things that you need to study and understand in the now? But also bringing your own life story and understanding what your why is. Without a personal why and knowing what it is that moves and drives you, it's hard to know how you're going to make a difference. So being self-aware in terms of what that means. So when you hear that Councilor White talk about some of the work that we do overseas, focusing on localization, working with communities, working side by side with implementing partners, All of that requires a skill set of knowing how to bring people together, knowing the art of facilitation, communication, negotiation, working with local governments. All of those things don't happen just through magic. It happens through a craft, studying, practicing, working with colleagues, being inclusive, appreciating DEIA and what that means in terms of how to work collectively as one. So in my role, it's understanding how do we develop and grow that? How do we make sure that people are successful? But it's not just about USAID and what we do, but it's making sure that we work with institutions and making sure that what we can give back to students, helping with curriculum development and partnering with those types of things. Those are powerful things as well. I've had the wonderful opportunity in this role to go overseas and to see the impact of our work, meet with our folks who work in our missions, our foreign service nationals who are a huge part of actually making sure that our workforce grows and learns because they're out in the ground doing the important work, living, and in everything they do we work through them, but they are 100% a part of our success story, a major part of our success story. So we are global in anything that we do and all that we do, and that's so important. And I just want to say, when we think about the workforce of the future and what that means, it's about being agile, right? The world is changing all the time, but what we need to do is start to develop resilient learners, resilient leaders, and the ability to deal with ambiguity, the ability to understand and be empathic, right? Compassionate, but also to lead from where you are. You don't have to have the fancy title to do that. My career, my 30-year career, I've worked in small business, helping women start small businesses. I've worked in technology, building tech, designing technology. I've worked in so many different types of careers. I worked on a film on slavery with a woman whose family was a large slave trader in the United States, her family and her legacy of what it means to have white privilege. And she said, I want you to work on my film, telling my story, which felt very soul-bearing, and inviting her family to grapple with what that meant. And I had the opportunity to take that film that she was working on about her life into the communities to create civic dialogue conversations about race and privilege and what diversity and DEIA meant in school systems. So she wanted to use it as a catalyst for civic dialogue with children in schools. So when I think about my own career and my responsibility and accountability for giving back, it's because of institutions like yours who invest in the gift and the talent of extending far beyond the beautiful grounds and the hallowed grounds of these walls and also in Brooklyn. But, it's the global reach that you get to have and influence. So with that, I just want to say I'm humbled to be on the stage because I'm a product of two parents who said they would rather sacrifice everything to come here to make a way for me and to know that many, many moons later, I won't tell you how old I am, that I have the opportunity to be here on the stage. And this is a way of giving back for their sacrifice. And so knowing that organizations like UNDP, like Medgar and all the organizations that help you make a difference in an individual's life, it carries on for generations. And so I'm thankful that I'm able to make a difference, but also to show my family that this is what sacrifice looks like, and it was worth it. So with that, I just want to say thank you for having us. And Sarah, I didn't have more formal notes, but I'm speaking from the heart, but I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
I would say thank you to our panelists. They have really good time and that makes life meaningful. So at this point, we'll engage in an interactive session. Going to take question and answer. If anybody has any more questions, to ask the panelists. Questions are welcome. We have 15 minutes for that. And then who will invite our panelists. 1 minute now. What our being called Latin round. The Latin round. If I can make it up to each. For now, please, if you have any questions, raise your hand and you can ask your questions to the panelists.
Check the chat here.
Huh?
Check the chat as well. It's a question in the chat.
Oh, the question in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh. I was not briefed on that. Thank you.
Bonus feature.
Well, one of the questions I saw is there a list, I think it was directed to Dr. Muhammad, is there a list of HBCU collaborators?
Oh,
Yes, I
Jack,
that's
is collaborating and is available, Dr. Farid Muhammad. Mentioned them, don't know if you want to use them again.
Yes, there is a list available. I don't know if it's going to be on the screen, but for those that participated in the this initial pilot process, there were 15 that I identified, and I'll just go over them again if you would like to. Alabama A&M University. As a matter of fact, I committed myself to give a shout out to the president and provost. Central State University, Clark Atlanta University, Fisk University, Hampton University, Howard University, Jarvis Christian University, Langston University, Medgar Evers, obviously, Morris Brown College, Shaw University, Stillman College, Texas Southern University, University of the District of Columbia, and the only non-US based institution was the University of Guyana. We're working now on collaborations with South Africa and other African nations. As a matter of fact, that was part of our original commitment in the memorandum that we signed with UNDP. So we hope to build up and around that. We're entering into processes of discussion right now as we speak.
Thank you very much. Also, if I may add, this is not an exclusive club.
Right.
It's open to HBCUs who have the same thirst for social justice, but understand how their learning tools and from their courses could benefit students across the world. And so if your organization is not on the list, it can be on the list if you wanted to.
Okay, I'll start from Dr. Wright.
I have two questions. One question is, what is the process that you use to identify best practices on the ground? Things that you want to duplicate? What's the process? Short, brief. What is the process that you use to identify best practices on the ground?
If you're referring to the particular pilot project that we've worked with, that's an ongoing process. We usually do an audit of the students themselves, as I mentioned, to sidestep the requirements to deal with degree-based or college credit-based collaboration with the students. Most of these students are already degreed. So this initial cohort, and as I said, they represented a cross-section of 76 countries. We give them a pre and post assessment. We have to conduct a little survey. We're very, very limited in terms of the resources and the access to support that we have available. That's why we have these kinds of discussions. And we're hoping to scale all of this up so that we can have the data and some of the information that will be required to make sure that we do this methodically and in the most cost-effective way. But from present experience, a lot of this has been done pro bono. We simply have a committee, a cohort of initial group that is doing this totally on a voluntary basis. So we're somewhat limited in our capacity to meet some of those needs, but this is what we hope to scale up and be able to do in the few years ahead.
Second question, is there a need for early childhood? I mean, I always think that there is.
Right.
Early childhood and especially also special education or at-risk populations.
Well, quite honestly, the way in which, as I mentioned, reference to the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 4, dealing with education. That's a very elastic, very broad and all-encompassing requirement that the UN has mandated. We simply bit off what we could reasonably chew at this point, and that was targeting higher education. But by obvious reference, we would hope that at all times, especially even through the institutions that we're presently working with, which have colleges of education, they actually train and teach teachers. Nigel, some of the things that we're going to be working on as we go forward is attempting to set up a mechanism and a process by which we can even use the technology that is presently available to certify and increase the preparation of teachers to meet the needs that exist throughout the African diaspora. That is no small task, but that is something that we remain very, very sensitive to, so that we can actually get to the earlier stages and ages of the population that have to be addressed as well. So we're looking at this in an intergenerational context, and certainly primary and secondary, and even obviously collegiate and post-graduate training is also. So there's nothing that is excluded from that overarching rubric of education.
Right, okay. Yeah, with the mask and the face.
Hi, as an alumnus,
Limit yourself to one question,
yes, I just have one question.
okay.
As an alumnus of Central State University, what can I do to support this initiative?
We can speak afterward. I can put you in touch with some of our partners on campus who are presently working on this, and we can go from there. But certainly, our lines of communication will remain open. We can refer you also to website information so that we can build and scale up. And this is what we're hoping to do, as I indicated, in the next 3-year window.
All right, yes.
Hi, my name is Alan Siege. I'm here as a guest of Stefan Doring. I actually taught here in a class called Sustainable Entrepreneurship Training, which was a wonderful experience. But my question, I'm very proud that my daughter works for Conservation International, which maybe you all know about. And one of the things that, well, probably their biggest mission is the relationship between development in countries throughout the world and climate change. And that's obviously a very big deal. And I didn't hear you mention that as one of your, or one of the points or goals, because it's remarkably powerful. And it's really, from what I've learned from her, there's a very close relationship between development, what is possible, what's not possible, based on the various repercussions of climate change. So I was curious to hear any of you discuss that.
Well, in the context of our program, which once again is still in the early stages of this metamorphosis, climate is obviously an extremely important factor. As a matter of fact, it's one of the key of the 17 SDGs that the UN has identified. The climate interest is one of them. And in the context of some of the classes that we try to target and make available to the students internationally, we will try to select classes of climate issues was one of them, I think in 2021 or 2, I can't remember the year, but we've had several classes that are specifically identifying women's issues and so forth. But we try to cover the gamut of the particular issues of education that also logically overlap with the 17 SDGs. Even though the overarching concern is education as a generic concept in terms of the SDG, but we try to selectively pinpoint those areas that align with USAID interests and also align with UNDP interests as well. So this is something that we're sensitive to, but once again, as you can tell from the preliminary data that we presently shared, this is in a very fledgling stage, and we hope to scale up as Raymond has indicated.
Maybe. No, go ahead. Okay, no, still on this point, Mr. Moderator. I think this is an excellent question, because it speaks to the heart of the complexity that we are dealing with in this thing we call development. We didn't mention the climate or environmental issues explicitly, but it is part of everything that we do. There used to be a time when, particularly in the African continent, it seemed to be a choice between do we go green or do we develop? Now increasingly we're realizing that one of the reasons why respiratory illnesses, I think, is the second biggest killer of women who are nursing in Africa is because they can't afford cleaner energy, and so they cut down trees to cook and heat their homes. And the smoke from that is killing them faster than anything else that you can think of. So we can't think about development without thinking about the environmental issue. We can't think about development without thinking about the fact that the vast majority of African countries still burn on clean fuel for electricity. The transition to cleaner electricity requires us to think through how we not just move from brown to green fuels, but how we improve efficiency, etc. A lot of the classes that we have on entrepreneurship and business incorporate this because it is an everyday reality across the African continent. One thing that we didn't mention because of time is the fact that part of this initiative, part of the larger dream of this initiative was also have a research component where HBCUs work with researchers in African universities and tackle some of these issues. Right now, how do you tell a country that depends on fossil fuels for 80% of its fiscal revenues to stop and invest in solar? The question there becomes, where are you going to get the resources to buy the solar panels if you don't sell your oil? But it needs some smart thinking. And this initiative, as Dr. Farid has rightly pointed out, is growing and expanding. And to the lady who asked, how could we support? I think we could all get involved. Getting involved alerts our universities, you're an alumni of our university, alert the university of this possibility, try to see if you could be a rainmaker in bringing this together. I think if you could fundraise and support a research project, support candidates who are applying to be part of this initiative. Because again, until and unless we crowdsource diaspora intelligence, and why is that going?
1 minute of that, so we can.
Sorry?
Just 1 more minute of that.
Yeah, just one more bit.
But the other committee is coming now.
Can I add
So
something too? But please, no, you have 59 seconds.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, you know, for us at USAID, climate change is one of our biggest priorities. We know the impact that it has around the world and the globe. We know last year was the hottest year in many categories, and we need to be doing something to ensure that we continue to keep this globe safe. But what I will say is, you know, as this particular program continues to grow, there are other things that we're doing with the OHBCUD. We already do a lot of work with UNDP, collaboratively around the world. But specifically with OHBCUD and Dr. Farid and Medgar Evers, you know, I alluded to earlier, we were all in, and I know Isaac Stillman College is here as well, always good to see you. We were just recently, which was organized by Shiraz Ashraf, who's here from Pakistan and our USAID mission, a diversity conference speaking about breaking down barriers, where we linked up 13 minority service institutions, I think 8 of them HBCUs, in Pakistan for 4 days with 18 women universities and colleges, a consortium. And the focus was not only on gender equality, but it also focused on climate change. We were looking at food security, we're looking at water security, and we're looking at how do we grow those kind of programs and activities and working together with these minority service institutions. And so that's just another area as we continue to grow this relationship that we're bringing in more of the key stakeholders and partners into this thing. Now, when we think about clean energy, which colleagues just mentioned, our Power Africa initiative with clean energy investments already have eliminated 30.9 million tons of greenhouse gases, the equivalent of taking 6 million cars off the road. And by 2030, we expect to mobilize 150 billion in public and private finance and align our development portfolios with country-driven mitigation and adaptation plans in 80 countries, and helping 40 other countries increase their participation with indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth, which are historically marginalized and underrepresented groups. And then the other point I just mentioned is that there is a big US government program that USAID helps to manage, which is called Feed the Future. And under those innovations, this is where we are focusing in on the climate change. And one of our partner colleges, UC Davis, University of California, Davis, they have an innovation lab for horticulture for markets, risk, and resilience for genetics and to improve poultry and for climate resilience chickpeas. And so this is, again, in this lab, we're helping farmers in Africa to better manage and to grow their crops by using these innovations. And so again, these are ways that we're helping the local communities and the globe to fight on the climate change. But we also want to ensure that we're including others, which is why you're here today.
Thank you for the full panel.
Yeah. Right there. Right. No, yeah. Right there.
Not yes.
Yeah, oh, sorry,
Yeah. Quick question you have.
I
Answer to the question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make, Dr. Edwin, another question with more comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank, Dr. Mohammed and Clinton, Dr. Gilpin, great speech. I also want to thank Dr. Rose for the incredible work they've been doing. We've been working together on a number of initiatives, and I actually met Dr. Mohammed through this initiative here. And Clinton mentioned when Clinton asked if I could introduce him to Dr. Mohammed, I was happy to do it because I know this would, definitely go places. We are currently working on a number of initiatives. We're working on a global energy institute, online energy institute. We're also doing a leadership institute. Dr. Mohammed talked about the largest, we're working on a large open teachers college and also a STEM institute. And in the last month, we brought together organizations like Google, Meta, and other organizations to work on building corridors between Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora, not only in education, but in things like energy, security, trade, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to thank the panelists. I want to thank the organizers, Superwoman, Dr. Joanne Rowe, and for all of us who have put this together. It's really a hard thing to see this, and we will continue to support this. The private sector, I made a commitment to Dr. Mohammed that I will continue to encourage the private sector to support this initiative. So I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Douglas, just the last question. Please, a 1 minute answer so we can give the panelists the enlightening minute.
I just want to thank the panelists. Thank you so much for coming to Medgar. I need you to know that Medgar is a tree growing in Brooklyn, and there are many things that are happening. We've written grants, we've done so much because we know that there are issues here that we must tackle. And if you go to YouTube, you will see our EYES project that turned young children and showed them how to eat right, because healthy human beings are wealthy human beings in the end. Because what you save by eating right, you will invest and do well with it. But another aspect that I wanted everybody to know, and a little, just quick story. When my mother-in-law died in 2001, my husband and I went to bury her. At the end of the funeral, The president of the women's group came to me crying. She held me and I said, what is wrong? Did anybody die? She said, no, that they have a problem. That the widows in, the village are being, destroyed because their husband who protects them are no longer there. But that if they have something doing, that they can, at least go to the market and not be used or destroyed. I said, okay, I have to go back because I'm teaching. When I come back, I heard you, I'll do something about it, and I did. So when we went back in December, I personally was able to give seed money to 35 widows and started a cooperative for them. I taught them how to come together as a group and help themselves. I told them that I'm far away. Every month they should put aside 100 naira. And that 35 of them will come up with some seed money so that if any other widow is in trouble, they can help them. But that I'm only a phone call away. So what I'm saying to everyone here, we can do a lot. We can do a lot. And if we do this, then other people can see what we're doing. Let our work speak for us, not the noise, but our work. So I thank everyone. Thank you very much for coming today.
I just want to say, when I was listening to everybody, it seems like we should put together an inventory of what everybody's doing in climate and a lot of different places. And then I think then put those groups together, like get them to go for proposals together as opposed to everybody doing their own thing. Seems like we need more organization with respect to all what the PPIs, HBCUs, and what everyone is doing. Because this is a Herculean problem that, we need to bring everybody together and see what they're doing. And then you can organize them to apply for certain grants and, do it together.
All right, yeah, can I just 3 seconds? Okay. Took 2 seconds. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm at home. So what I was going to say is, we have been doing a lot in this particular area because USAID, is the development arm of the U.S. government. We receive, federal government funds for programs and activities contracts. And recently, we had a series, and I'll make sure to share this with you all, for MSIs, how to do business with USAID. And so I think it's a 3-part series that we'll share with you, and then some other tools, because that will allow you to see and better plan how you might want to interact with USAID through grants or proposals and things of that nature, but also, as you said, those things that we're working on, what's on the horizon, what's coming out, which countries, which regions, all of those things that you can also help to plan better. And, we can continue to do sessions like this. Excellent. Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you very much. That's one thing that very interesting and very exciting. Say 2 days ahead of one, but I think numerous heads. One idea that coming up here that I thought about, and ensure that everybody's thinking about the problems, and that to get together and be able to develop a good deal of it. So now the panelists have 1 minute, which is 60 seconds. If you have any lightning conclusions or summary of what you talked about. So begin again with, let me start from the right. So if you have 1 minute to lightning summarize your presentation.
I would just probably say again, thank you for allowing us to be here. When we think about, Medgar Evers and him giving up his life, and for everything that he was a sacrifice, we really owe it to him and those like him to do the same. This is the time, when we think about, legacy challenges that he recognized and understood so well. We're facing those same challenges today. And we need to be prepared, and we need to be working together to help solve those, but to also help protect each other. And so that's my wish my one ask is, as we continue down this road, let's continue not to forget about what he stood for, what this tree, this beautiful tree in this concrete city stands for, and how we need to continue to nurture each other so that we can continue to nurture.
Thank you. Dr. Gilpin?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd also like to thank you all for being here and for hosting us. I think ever so often we are at an inflection point in history. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I do think we are, I honestly believe we are right now. Okay, as we try to recover from the pandemic, we see geostrategic shifts, violent conflicts globally is becoming problematic. The climate issue is becoming more immediate every year. And the dearth of human capital in places like the African continent remains an open sore. I think institutions like Medgar Evers College, like the HBCUs, have a unique contribution they could make to that in many different ways. But one way, and one important way, is the IBLI, which together we could institutionalize, we could resource, and we could scale up to answer some of the thorny questions that we continue to contend with when it comes to government, but also invest in the next generation. And it may sound impossible until someone does it, and that someone could be us through IBLI. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, and I'll be very brief. Once again, just to extend gratitude and appreciation for hosting us here at Medgar Evers. Two of our deans who are members of our National Steering Committee, I just wanted to formally recognize them from the audience. Dr. Charles Richardson Jr. from Alabama University. Dr. Isaac McCoy is the Dean of Business at Stillman College. Dr. Joanne Roll, and there might be a few others who were pending. There was several from Spelman, and I believe Dr. Gregory Maddox was here earlier, also from Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. These are members that have been with us since the beginning, and I just wanted to formally recognize them. In the interest of just wrapping up, you would have seen it on the screen had I had the opportunity to share it with you. There is a donation number and contact number if you want further information. So I'll make that available. I'll leave it with our dear colleague, Dr. Roll, but also with everyone's consent and those who will be furthering this discussion as we follow up tomorrow. You're on that mail, you know who you are. There's about 25 or so on that list, so I'll take the presumption of sending this to you, the entire PowerPoint that would have been presented. And if there's anyone else who would want access to that, you could let me know at the conclusion of this meeting. I'll include you in that mail list that will be able to be shared, and we'll hit some of the other summary points that unfortunately time precluded my being able to get into that fine detail, but it will also supply you with some follow-up information that we can use to hopefully mobilize and to spread things out from that point. So with that, thank you so very much and have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Adedola.
I think to tie it all together, I think I just want to make a statement as the human capital person on the panel, but one thing that we take for granted is the power of storytelling, right? Because being able to talk about the impact, talk about the things that we care about, the great question about climate change, the great story that our sister mentioned about working with widows. If we don't tell those stories and give visual context in terms of what the burning platform is, people will not be moved to make change. Often we talk amongst ourselves and folks who look like ourselves or who are doing the work, right? And that learning and that power, that force multiplication unintentionally gets locked in a box in a bubble because you're working with like-minded folks. The energy and the acceleration happens when you're meeting people and you're talking about the purposeful nature of the why and the emergencies and the things that we want to do out in the world. So and I say that because it's a skill set I know we're trying to harness with our own workforce. So the art of storytelling and making sure people understand why something's important and why the things that we need to do to help our domestic and global partners is critical is through building those bridges. So I just want to make sure, and on that note, to you are storytellers, taking the tree aspect, we're all branches, but we need to get out and expand so we can be those change agents and those rainmakers that we heard our colleague mention. Thank you.
Once more, I thank the panelists. I will not be able to thank them enough. The other deans and organizers of this event were here. So now we will make a transition to the student event, which will take another 35 minutes. And the moderator is
Ms. Sabrina Lewis, come forward and bring your students.
yes, and the panelists will stay. The student presenters will take on the mic. The moderator to come over here. I'm going to step aside for a minute. So yes, just only my major presentation. So
Happy New Day, everyone.
So we will be a little bit of a break.
Thank you, everyone. Happy New Day. How's everyone doing? To stretch real quick. Would that help? Okay, so everybody stand up. Yeah, everybody stand up real quick. Everybody. So this is stretch. Listen up a little bit. Everybody stand up real quick and just take a deep breath in. Arms up. Wow. Yes, arms down. If you need to do it again, feel free to do so. I know we've been sitting for a while. Wellness is a choice. So if you choose to sit down, it's up to you. But I welcome you to stand and breathe. Okay, you ready? You can have a seat and we're gonna get on to the So thank you so much for being here today. I'm so honored. My name is Sabrina J. Lewis. I am a community resident. I am a student of Medgar, as well as a business leader in the nonprofit and profit sector. And I'm so honored and happy to be your moderator today for my students here at Medgar, as well as all of you. So, Dr. Muhammad, thank you so much. The students and I were sitting in the back and just listening to all of the initiatives, all the takeaways, and we're so full. And so, in honor of time, we're not gonna give all of our questions. I think we'll have each student just give maybe one pressing concern that they have, okay? And so, in summary, I'll just give a brief summary of what our interests are. And so many of our students are entrepreneurs, have developed businesses, have worked in community, have severe interest in developing partnerships locally and abroad. And I need to do another. Like I just made everything. All right, so then. Great, I'm here. I'm excited because we have a lot of initiatives and so do you. And as a HBCU PBI, right, we want to make sure that we're able to best collaborate with your initiatives to create a goal that will be substantial for all. I love what you said about storytelling. I think it's important that each student tell their stories. We have students from different parts of the world that came to Medgar College to study. And I would like for them to share just a brief, maybe 1 or 2 sentences, you know, about where they come from and why they're here. And so I'm gonna talk less. And I'm gonna ask Anna to come up. She has some questions she wanna ask and, you know, I wanna introduce her to you. Okay, so Anna Dia, you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Adam Gio. Like, Serena says, she said 2 to 3 sentences. Obviously, I won't be able to do it in 2 to 3 sentences, because I have a lot to say. So, my name is Adam Gio. I'm a student here at Medgar, and then, I'm currently in my junior year studying business administration here. Also, I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children, 7 and 4. I'm originally, yes. So I'm originally from West Africa, specifically Mali. I've heard Dr. Mohammed speaking about so many African countries, but was wondering where is Mali? I know because we're French colonies, and it's hard to hear Mali and everything that being said in here because of the language barrier. But as a first generation, I came to this country when I was 20 years old. That was 13 years ago, so I'm 33 years old. And as a first generation, I've decided to join nonprofit community organization in my community, Brownsville, 7 years ago. So, and I have learned and grown a lot through you speaking so much about the storytelling. That was one story that I wanted to share also. As a first generation, it was hard to join those communities because of English barrier, because of lack of education. And in coming into Medgar Evers College here, I have learned so much, and in being able to have my voice heard and in be who I want to be, helping the other people who have not had a chance to do so. So last summer, I have had opportunity to attend a program here, was led by Dean Rowe and Dr. Micah, and then Will was the facilitator. So thank you for all that program last summer. It was amazing. We had the opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship, about AI technology, and also as a student, how to be who we want to be and do how we can do it in the corporate life. So one of the questions that I have is, as an entrepreneur, as a community leader, and a student here at HBCU, so what can you all help me? And what can I benefit from the program that you all have? Thank you. I know I took so much time and I'm nervous, so thank you.
No, excellent, right? Right. Oh, wonderful. So your question again was, how can you, as an entrepreneur, as a student, and as a leader in a community, because she does a lot of community volunteering, right? So we want her to get people involved. But, she does a lot of that. And so how can she benefit from your program, and how can you all benefit from what she has to offer?
Yeah. If I make this very quickly, because my wheels are turning, as you were mentioning, especially around the theme of entrepreneurship and at the local community level. Certainly stay in touch with Dr. Rowe, because she sort of serves as a kind of hub and sort of in Medgar Evers. I don't want to take that too presumptuously, but that's sort of the way they factor, and this has just rolled out that way. LaShawn, I don't know if she's in the audience, in terms of, I'm assuming that you might have familiarity with her. Now, this one is a common thread. There's an organization that we network with out of Chicago. It's called the Austin African American Business Networking Association. And this has the support from the mayor, Brandon Johnson, and sort of supportive of what's called the Soul City Corridor Project in Chicago. So we can sort of stay networked around some of that information. I can share that because it sort of feeds right in. It's a kind of common thread. In addition to the IDLI, the distance learning, we're also trying to impact and reach out to community-based organizations at the local level in which each of these organizations operate. The National HBCU Business Deans Roundtable, to our knowledge, is also working on trying to develop and reach out and create regional entrepreneurial training programs in various areas. I'm not sure that if Medgar Evers is part of that network. It is headquartered out of Howard University in Washington, D.C. And we could also put you in touch with some of that activity as well.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Just really quickly, this has nothing to do, not very much to do with IDLI, but at UNDP, we have a particular focus on youth entrepreneurship. particularly across the continent. Two initiatives I'd like to mention. The first is something called Youth Connect. And we can give you this is an amazing network of business people across the continent. Young people like yourself who have wonderful ideas, who come together, support each other, and do business and make money. Graduation from the volunteerism. The second thing I'd like to mention is something we call accelerator labs or ACT labs. I think we have one in Mali. Yes, I just saw a nod from my colleague Janet from UNDP at the back. Yeah, so there's one in Mali as well. And so we do, so they will not have a language barrier. The accelerator lab again focuses on young entrepreneurs who are trying to, even though it's focused on the African continent, I think it's a good ecosystem to be part of.
Just quickly, can you tell them a little bit about the business that you're running in Mali and here?
Oh.
4 years ago, I had the opportunity to have the exclusive right to represent an energy train called Glory in a West African country, not only in Mali, but all over Africa, Yuma. So I'm trying, that's the product that I'm trying to bring over here, which they know and all the stuff have been helping me with the process. So yes.
So one thing I would just say at USAID, we actually have a mission in Mali. And so if you have that program activity, we would love to connect you to our USAID mission there, and our mission director, Ogali, who's been there for about 6-7 months now. But yes, if you have these kind of programs, we can also help to put you in touch with them and see what other activities, potential programs there might be for you to be engaged in. And remind me again, what type of businesses that you're doing?
I actually have like a distribution company, like another distribution, working on that now is now official, which I've been doing in Mali for, like I said, 4 years, but working with Jane Rose, and we made it legal, have like the LLC and all of that stuff. They would help me with all of that. So it's a distribution company. We distribute basically any and everything that we get, food and food product. But right now, our main product is Glory Energy Drink. It's an energy drink which is halal also. I like to mention that because Mohammed said it's halal, which I've been like working on that, representing it for like 4 years in back home, but like trying to bring that in here.
And she's too humble to mention it, but she was our first place winner in the pitch competition last year.
Thank you. So humble, thank you so much for sharing that information. Thank you so much. And so just to wrap up on his questions, what can she as a Medgar Evers College student do to benefit or to support rather the initiatives of the UN and of the HBCU and of USAID?
No, I think, well, at least I would say on the USAID side, another turnover at a total in terms of internships and programs and things of that nature. But, we have a number of instruments that allow for people to engage. There's one called our Higher Education Solutions Network. It's a global interdisciplinary network of labs designed to discover more innovative, results-driven, efficient, cost-effective solutions, especially around global health, food security, and other chronic conflicts. We also have these other, what I was called development, innovative initiatives that allow you to, put in a proposal for an idea that you have, which could also start small, and then, we see how well it goes, and then it can be scaled up. So there's information that we can pass on to make sure that you have that information.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just want to share a brief story that I remember. Oh, did you have something? No, I think my story can wait. No, please, my story can wait.
You too.
I know that obviously, the counselor said all the good points, but I think it's just continuing to invest in your networks and know that there are many open hands that want to help you grow, thrive. But having myself worked with small businesses, helping women grow small businesses for a number of years, small and medium-sized businesses, the network is the most important thing, making sure you tap into that. And also being a staunch advocate for your value proposition and what's your pitch. So the fact that you won your pitch is amazing, but being able to like always have that elevator pitch in terms of what is it that makes you stand out, and being able to make sure people understand that and know and get that and want to advance you, propel you forward. But definitely collaboration, if there are programs, we have obviously, different funding mechanisms that we work with organizations, but just keep reaching out and definitely do that.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I was gonna speak to networking. Yeah, and I was just gonna share the experience that I had when I was way younger, about my son's age. In high school, it was the International YMCA. It was a study abroad program. We were able to exchange, some of the things that we were doing in our local communities around food insecurity, around building friendships and developing organizations that, well, not an organization, but just developing collaboration with the community members to help meet a need of the local community. And so here at Medgar College, of course, we want to include entrepreneurship and education, AI more so in technology, because everything is being taken over by artificial intelligence. I think bridging the gap between artificial intelligence and education is impactful in all those things. And so I was just sharing my experience on networking and studying abroad with the home state family and learning that culture. And I think it'll be great if we could expand, our programs, with the agenda of the different continents in Africa to expand further. Abigail. Yes, I'm gonna call our other student, Abigail. She is SGA Vice President, Day Vice President. She leads a lot of student initiatives in school right now. And she was listening to your different initiatives, and she had one or two questions. Just one question. Okay, just one question that she wanted.
Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Abigail, like you rightly said, I'm the vice president, or the vice president of SGA. And I am Nigerian as well. So I would like to say, now that if we don't carry last, so I want to say that. But one of my goals is to be an entrepreneur, but also further down the line is to go back to Nigeria and actually open up a school and diverse the education that's there. I know when I was growing up, my parents only taught me four jobs I have to be. Either a lawyer, doctor, engineer, or if you know, you know. That was the four jobs I had to be aligned with. But as I further got down to my education, I realized that those four would have kept me in the box. And entrepreneurship allowed me to be open and creative who I am today. So down the line, I want to shape up the education downstairs, make sure to understand that you don't have to be confined to those four jobs or be confined to what your parents say, but actually shape and grow more. So my question is, we can't donate to, because cousins are broke. How do we, how can students get more involved with the initiative, and how can that also benefit us, for the future down the line?
Right, that's an excellent question. I wouldn't want to sort of trip over my speed, but one of the projects we tried to pilot this past summer is called the Urban Youth Initiative. And we basically have tried to sort of send out feelers for students of African descent who are still registered as undergraduates, graduate students, professional schools, alumni of various of the Divine Nine fraternities and sorority system, any and all of those who represent untapped pools of talent in the economic area, social area, whatever. And we've set up a kind of committee where those who would want to be considered for possible linkage with already existing internship, externship, paid or unpaid opportunities for engaging with either USAID or with the UNDP, that because they have student internship processes already available, they're competitive. They actually attract students and candidates from not only the United States, but internationally and regionally. So it's a very rigorous process, but that opportunity exists. We've thus far identified 2 medical students from Meharry who are in the pipeline of just being explored. I don't want to sort of publicly openly sort of go into that too much detail, but that will be an ongoing mechanism that we will have available, and we'll make that information additionally available to those here at Medgar Evers, and that's something that you can locally, you can tap into and sort of see what is available. Both even, that might be available even here locally, as well as at the continental and hemispheric level, or even international.
Can I add something
I
to
have one
that?
more.
Great, hello?
Sorry, I have one more question. How can like what advice would you give to a student who wants to try to start initiatives like that? I know it's not easy to just say, I want to do something or like go to school, but what can we start small? What can we do now? Like start small before we can get to the big initiative, like do go to the school for Nigeria or do something else.
Well, I don't, there are others might have thought, even those in the audience might have thought, but I would say, hit those books. Make sure you do well in your class. Find a mentor, identify with a faculty member, student government, any allied association that sort of will give you access to some of the training, skill development that might be required, and that could possibly serve as a mentor or guide. And then that puts you in the position to sort of do a kind of, you know, your own audit, to look at what opportunities are available right in front of you that might not otherwise, you might not otherwise be aware of. Like coming to a discussion on your campus today at this situation, so that there's a multiplying effect in terms of the circumference of the resources and the potential contacts that can be made. So you are very blessed, and those in the audience and those students and those in Chicago and even online, and I know that you know, this is on Zoom, if they're still available, we invite students that, you know, hopefully as we get feedback from today's conference, there might be some additional students that we might be able to put you in contact with.
Thank you.
Can I say something? Can you hear me?
If I may add one thing to your question, and this is something I say when I'm working with individuals and I'm coaching and mentoring, but it's a bit of advice I got from my own mentor once a time ago, is that invest in putting together your own personal board of directors. And what does that mean? When you meet people that you admire or people who have a skill set or something that you're trying to do out in the world, form that circle around yourself where you know that there's that diverse set of people that you can reach out to, tap into, but then start to expand that access to a network, or like our colleague said, being able to recommend events to come to, etc. But think about, what does your own personal, professional, educational board of directors looks like for you? And then that will take you far. Because I know for me, that's what allowed me to have many careers, many opportunities, meet many people, especially knowing that my family coming from Nigeria did not have a network here, right? So they had their family network, their friend network, but you know, going out to school, learning things, traditions that were not familiar, all those types of things, I had to learn on my own, make my way on my own. But it's creating that diverse network, and you go out and get it. And those people want to see you succeed, but come up with your board of directors, and it will take you a long way. But that's just my advice to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate having this time. We had 3 other students that could not be here today due to different emergencies. One representing NAVA. He wants to speak to you on finance and what we can do in finance to support the agenda of the UN for 2030. Right? And we had another student that participated in our entrepreneurship program that created technology for climate change. And he wanted to speak on that. I wish he was here today. But if there were any takeaways that I could take back to those students and to the team, what would it be in regards to initiative, in regards to work, collaboration, partnerships, because we're so full and we have much to offer, right? What can we do to support at home? Each panelist, each agenda.
Well, I think, once again, I don't want one of the things, at least here in New York, that will be probably very helpful, we have, and I mentioned it briefly, we have an annual, that is the HBCU network that I'm part of. And we network obviously with USAID and with UNDP. And we committed ourselves to have each year, September, as a marginal side event along with the UN General Assembly. We have annual meetings. So to the degree that you guys are strategically here at Medgar positioned to be right here, we would welcome you and we will share further information as we plan out what that agenda will look like, the different activity levels that we could possibly, as we've done before, we will actually factor in possibilities for students, both nationally, regionally, and internationally, because it's part of the UN discussion. We could try to create those kinds of natural networks and those pipelines of communication. We're doing something similar along the lines with this in terms of USAID that we're exploring in South Africa and in Uganda. So that's another dimension that is, synergistic. It's part of the same conversation, but this is at a micro level, since you're right here in New York. This is something we would I don't want to formally commit because that agenda is not formally put in place. But as we get closer to that side event activity this September, we would more than welcome the participation of any representation from the network here at Medgar.
Thank you so much for that.
No, mine is very simple. Both on the finance side and the technology side, is that they should seek to solve problems. I see a lot going on, particularly in the tech field. Everybody's creating a new app. Nobody's buying those apps. And the apps are, we are apped out. But at the same time, you have a continent where people still water their land and feed their flock by guesswork. Generally, why don't we have technology that makes sure that every farmer or every person who has cattle on the African continent, let me be specific, on the African continent, has the technology to know when to water, how much to water, and how to optimize output? Why does it take a shipping container from the port of Mombasa to Uganda, it travels at a speed of less than 10 miles an hour? Not because the roads are terrible, the roads are good, they have good highways, but because of the logistics, the number of times that container needs to stop to write out forms and pay taxes. Why can't we have an NTF on each container? So just that you do the toll booth, it just goes through. Why is it that we are still wondering right now who owns what when it comes to land ownership? When satellites can pinpoint a 10 by 10 inch square, where are the African or the HBCU brains solving those problems? But if you solve the land cadastral problem, you have opened the gates to millions of women who will get credit from banks because they could say, this is my title. It's registered in something like a blockchain that's publicly accessible. Same with finance. Financing at the moment, we talked about climate change. One of the biggest challenges we have with climate change now is not finding the money. The global financial system is excessively liquid. There is money. The challenge is the mismatch between the kind of money that's available and the purpose for which that money is required. Patience capital. Why is it that we default to short-term financing instruments when we have a medium to long-term investment proposition? Where are the brains? And that is what we need to focus on. Find a problem, use your skills, solve a problem.
And I would just end with, there's a lot that USAID is doing both the climate technology and the finance sectors. you know, I don't want to say just drawing your attention to a website, but what I'll do is make sure to provide the information specifically around those, because we do have a Institute Technology and Research, you know, Innovation Technology and Research office, hub, climate finance hub, technology, I mean, all of these things that we've been talking about, and working more so with universities and others around, you know, this green economy, you know, ensuring that we're creating and working on the green skills that are going to be necessary for young people to be able to continue to work in this. And it is looking at how do you use and better utilize technology in this space. You know, not many young people, at least in the places I've been, are going to want to go out and be the farmers that their, you know, their parents or their grandparents were. We feel like it's too hot. So we need to come up with those, you know, climate smart agriculture tools and things of that nature that are going to help us to be more productive and help us to use the technology that's going to, you know, build the resilience of a seed that can be planted anywhere, you know, given the drought and overgrow. So these are things that we are working on all the time. We have different initiatives and innovations, but I just say, you know, let me share those things with you all to see then how you can all do better.
Thank you. So,
Me, I would just say anything is possible. I mean, there's not much I can say that my colleagues haven't said, but I'm just passionate about go out, do whatever you can to grow your knowledge, meet people, just know you belong in whatever space that you're in. If you don't have that mindset of you belong here, you deserve success, that you are valuable, that you are seen, that you can make change. Always wake up knowing that you are an example for whomever you stand near. Whether it's a family member, a stranger, we are all examples here of each other, right? Because we're sharing, we're learning, we're storytelling. So you got to tap into your why every day, because you need that energy to fight, right? To be a good entrepreneur, you got to stay hungry, right? You have to have passion, but you also have to learn from your mistakes. You have to make sure you're solving, like our colleague said, you have to make sure you're solving the right problem. I say that at work every day. When folks are working on projects, when they're working out in the mission, when they're working with, don't solve a problem that you think is interesting. You got to make sure that the problem that you're solving is serving a purpose for the people, right? So just not being kind of inward facing in your mindset, but you also have to be agile, learning 3 years ahead. No, like staying relevant, staying on top of the things that are happening. So for me, it's just knowing that anything is possible, but it always comes back to knowing that you are a force multiplier. So that's what I'll add as a topic.
thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. I'm not going to take up any more time. I don't want to make you all do any more exercises. So I want to say thank you. I just realized this is a hybrid event. So I want to say thank you to everyone on Zoom for being here. And if there are any questions for the students or me, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I mean, very often in activities like this, I hear about segue. Segue into the next topic. As a matter of fact, we're running a little bit, like 10 minutes behind time. So, but what I seem to conclude is that we are already into the next stage. The questions from the students were interesting. And they already take us into what we're supposed to be doing next, which is the conversations with community partners, and that conversation is already going on. Meanwhile, in the Department of Economics and Finance, I have so much about entrepreneurship. We offer the BS in Financial Economics. Also, our department has a program in entrepreneurship, and we offer a minor in entrepreneurship. And what's important about a minor like that, program entrepreneurship is, yes, while we are talking about entrepreneurship and we want to be entrepreneurs, it's important to also be formally, I would say, get some formal information about the process. This is why we have degree programs. For example, I want to be an accountant or I want to do money. Well, take one course in accounting. Take one course in financial management. At least it gives you what I would say informed research experiences. And this is what academicians do, is that they take experiences and encapsulate them into theories and concepts and methods that at least you have a basis, a foundation for what in statistics we call hypothesis testing. These tested ideas are there for you to experiment with. Of course, there are sometimes digressions in the assumptions, and again, this is what creative thinking is about. And so we have a degree program, a minor in entrepreneurship, try to take courses in entrepreneurship and please see what experienced entrepreneurs have documented. This is what I'm talking about, documentation. And we're also working on developing an online degree program, BS in entrepreneurship. So please be informed. So now we get back to our panelists. We have about 35 40 minutes, something like that. We've got an open forum engages the audience in solution-oriented discussion on local and global collaboration opportunities. Opportunities are there. We would also like our panelists to explore, help us explore current project and program funding opportunities, what is available there, what can we tap into. It's very, very important that we have the information. And then, of course, we can also engage in collective brainstorming with the panel and the audience propositions for future local, organizational, and business collaborations. I was in a meeting with our esteemed colleague there, Brian, in fact, Gilpin was there, Muhammad was there, and we talked about decolonization of our curriculums. And I said decolonization is not something that we kind of forsake understanding others. Because it's very important to know who we are dealing with. We're in a world that's coming more and more together. We seem to focus on saying we as Africans should not understand European history or should not understand the Chinese. We are in the world with them, and what we are looking for is a way where we all live in harmony. And if you understand the other person, if you understand their history, you understand what they have gone through and why they respond the way they respond, it's much better to deal with them. And dealing with them does not mean know how to fight them, but know how to interact with them, know how to motivate them, know how to get them to accommodate you, and you accommodate them. But at the same time, the colonization of our curriculums, for example, I talk about how we have been educated as Africans to try to be European. Nothing wrong with being Europeans, nothing wrong with being European, but at the same time, you cannot abandon yourself. One thing that my dad did for me, an educator, a biologist, an agricultural scientist, is to have a clear identity, to identify myself, while at the same time, understand the other person's identity. I often say that my dad knows our jungles just as well as he knows the streets of London. But he did not live in England for 3 years, but he understood who he was dealing with and related very, very well with them. And this is why I am not a part of it. Okay. So recently I've been asking questions about some of our lost foods. We think about feeding ourselves in the continent, but we're abandoning our foods. The natural foods that thrive in our environment, we're abandoning them. And so I've been asking questions, and some of them are being lost. And I'm saying, I'm offering lots of money to people in the village. Go and look for these things. I want them cultivated. I want to bring them back to life. And we can feed ourselves better if we cultivate what is natural in our environment. It's true. That is very, very true. So on that note, I will then get the audience. Let us engage in an interactive conversation with the panelists. So if you have questions, if you have ideas, bring them up. Let's have a conversation for the next 30 minutes.
especially our community partners, and we really want them to have a time to engage as well. We had our students, we had our faculty, and we have several community partners here, so please stay.
No pressure.
No.
I'll say my name. My name is William Franklin. Everybody usually calls me Will. To put it all together, I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corporation. Dr. Muhammad actually introduced LaShawn Allen Muhammad, who is also my mentor. I'm also a program manager in economic development at Bridge Street Development Corporation. That happened as a result of a relationship that Central Brooklyn already had with Bridge Street. I'm also an adjunct instructor here at Medgar Evers, teaching intro to entrepreneurship to high school students. That happened as a relationship that Dean Rowe had with LaShawn from Central Brooklyn. And me being an adjunct instructor at Medgar Evers started with me being the co-facilitator and educator and then lead instructor of a program that Dean Rowe built called Train the Trainer through the Metaverse. So it was first it started as a month-and-a-half long program. The next year it actually doubled to a 3-month program with an introductory component, and it actually tied current Medgar Evers students and adult learners that recently got their GED or was in the process of pursuing their GED, put them all in the same classroom. That was the first year. The second year, we added high school students to expand what that reach actually looks like, talking the same story to a variety of audiences in the same room for the sole purpose of getting an equal result between those 3 levels. And that was designed by Dean Rowe. I had the opportunity to actually lead that. Ada and Abigail, if she's still here, both of them were my students. Ada won first place with international business, trying to figure out what that bridge actually looks like from Africa to America. Second place was March. It was technology answering climate change at the individual and the community level. And the last one was Anthony, who created a machine that could actually make your drinks in a quicker time because he's a mixologist. But so I said all of that, right, to highlight the last thing that Dr. Egby said about the food in, countries in Africa, that you can feed yourselves if you cultivate what already exists there. So we're not talking about food at this point, we're talking about people, because everything that I just said was Dean Rowe expanding her reach and LaShawn building capacity in her space, actually include all of the contiguous communities around her and cultivating what already exists naturally in the community to create the opportunities that I just talked about. And I'm one person in all 3 of those roles. So the natural food in the community being cultivated because I'm from Brownsville. And now I sit here and I represent in a particular type of way that makes sense to present to this panel. And my whole thing is that I listen to all of this and LaShawn being able to tell you, I look for like key connectors. And what I've heard is that education, some form or another, is the foundation of all of this. And what perpetuates it would be the student, or what you would like to perpetuate it is the student. So I asked 2 things. One, how could we expand workforce development, right? Which is a big deal in every single space, no matter what we're combating, any type of injustice. So how could we expand workforce development to include entrepreneurship? Because entrepreneurship's key purpose is to answer problems, right? And with these programs, if they could be expanded, a lot of problems could be answered, small and large scale, depending on if you put them together or leave them separate. My second question is, for the students alone, for their individual development and growth, how could we create, expand, or highlight programs that may already exist in innovation and entrepreneurship that would allow the students to either implement their ideas abroad or allow them to go abroad to actually develop those ideas or ignite some ideas and bring them back home. I'm sorry, I said a lot, please forgive me. Everybody who knows me knows I talk a lot. I try to say as much as I can to answer as many questions as I can. So I apologize, but those are my 2 questions. If I need to reiterate, I will.
I think we're just waiting because we weren't sure you were done.
No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm just enjoying you the whole morning.
No, I would just, if I may, just very quickly. From a very practical level and the most cost-effective way, since Medgar is already engaged in the Summer Institute, which we could use, I would say challenge almost to create a course, a model of a course that would begin to create virtual networks or platform in which entrepreneurs locally here in Brooklyn could reach out, network with the class virtually with some of the contacts we have in Chicago. I'm just saying that one, for example. There are others, and even many of the, those of our students from the cohort that I just very, very quickly outlined, who are doing similar activity in various regions in Africa. I can see a possibility as an extension of what is already being done in one of the classes that Dr. Edday is already teaching, which is a little bit more high level, that perhaps an entrepreneurship class or a class that is designed and tailored specifically. It's not necessarily for a degree program. It could be taught in tandem with such a course, but it could also sort of be a specialized course that at least would do 2 things. One is begin to put in a virtual space the natural networking and collaboration and some time spent built around a curriculum, a modest curriculum that could possibly culminate in a certificate, you know, that certifies. This would have the engagement of UNDP, but also have the engagement of USAID. We could, you know, from our end, in the HBCU community, we could find some common threads and areas around which the possible curriculum structure could be designed or collaborated with a professor or someone locally, maybe here at Medgar, who could see the interest, and you could have already networked with. You could think through what should that kind of curriculum look like? What would be the types of students that you would want to invite of like-mindedness to be engaged in a 6, 7, 8-week summer module, where they could begin to exchange and share lessons learned and come up with some kind of activity. And then I could say that could be highlighted perhaps during the UN Assembly session that we're going to have in September. I don't want to be overly ambitious, but at the same time, I'm looking sort of at the local, the grassroots level and seeing the different stages through which those kind of natural opportunities can be created, not for those of us who already have some of the technical or, you know, academic or professional positions, but that also can engage entrepreneurship, begin to generate that kind of discussion from those at the local and community level who are currently meeting the challenges head on in the areas in which they reside. And since that's already being naturally done here, like you just indicated, through the organization that you're affiliated with, that is associated with Medgar, there's similar situations taking place in other cities, in other HBCUs that we're already engaged with. So that common thread could possibly be used to create a small course, the module or an outline, which would facilitate allowing those people who are already doing their thing, who already have some experience and some lessons that they can share, to begin to collaborate in a very fixed and a very defined way, and see if they can come up with some collaborative outcomes, you know, subsequent to their being introduced to each other. I don't know if I'm saying.
No, like, I understand everything that you're saying. I just have a follow-up if everybody is okay with me hitting a follow-up before. Okay. So 2 things I heard you say. I heard you say an academic structure, curriculum that could possibly turn into a certificate program. And then you talked about collaborative efforts using technology for now in order to, you know, either build that out or actually disseminate it, and programs that are similar to actually tie them together in collaboration. So the second part, Dean Rowe already has a framework for it. The first part, LaShawn already has a framework for it. if we put both of them together, what would resources look like to move that forward?
Well, based upon what we've already discussed, to the degree that it could be part of that course, for example, could be collapsed into what we anticipate doing again, this summer. Well, we'd have to speak to that in terms of what our funding would look like going forward. I'll put it that way.
Okay,
But we've already been doing this for the past 3 years, and God willing, we hope to be able to do something at least minimally comparable to what we've done last year, which was, you know, we would like to see that be expanded. But even if we just stuck to what is tried and proven at this point, I can see that reasonably being incorporated even in that framework.
Thank you very much. Somebody willing to.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna respond quickly.
Okay, please.
So I mean, as you know, I mean, for USAID, our main responsibility is overseas. And so we do a number of programs and activities with entrepreneurs overseas. One particular project I'll mention, you know, just to kind of give you an idea of the things that we do. When I was working in the Caribbean, we were working with Guyana and helping their entrepreneurs to develop their products so that they can sell them throughout Guyana as well as the Caribbean and even markets into the US. The food and other services that were being done. And we were what we call this accelerator type program where we were helping them to accelerate how they were building their entrepreneurial businesses, giving them tools, the skills that they needed, you know, giving them funding to continue to build this out, and then seeing, you know, how to help them then move it to the market. And so these are kind of programs where we do work with entrepreneurs, you know, not just, you know, Guyana, but throughout the world in our programs and activities. Where I see the potential of you, and what you had mentioned is, we do have an office of small and disadvantaged businesses. And this is the opportunity to learn more about how you can be, you know, how you can work with USAID with this particular office. There's a lady named Kim Ball who runs that office with several other people, and we can put you in touch.
Yeah, how you
All the
doing?
ones that also help build a bridge. We can work, you know, with the US domestic
You gonna do what?
businesses, entrepreneurs, and others in the international field.
Oh,
Sometimes they
okay,
do
that's what I'm looking at too, because I've been trying to make a point. So it wasn't that, we're listening. That it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unless, you know, someone points out that I'm cut out, so.
Just a quick one now.
Okay, all right. Thanks for calling, man. Thanks for being
I
on.
think this is, key, because
Okay.
a lot of the initial, courses, I think are just, gateway courses to much, deeper and continued education. A lot of the IBLI at the moment looks like, feels like, workforce development efforts, because most of the participants are already in the workforce, already degreed. They're looking to upskill in specific areas. How could you be part of that? I think as Dr. Fareed rightly pointed out, maybe rolling some of your offerings into the IBLI to strengthen it, or also finding ways, just like USAID has country offices. We have country offices, we have regional hubs, and of course, you go to the website. If there's something that is like regional or country specific that you see that you would like to be part of, then of course you can reach back to us, and we'll be more than happy to make the relevant connections. But unfortunately, I have to go back to my office. I've just been recalled. My colleague Abdullah Jane would sit in for me while I'm gone. But just once more, thank you so much. It's been such a thrill being here. And thank you, Bill. I've made it to Medgar.
Well, I would like to add my own personal thanks to Mr. Gilpin. We've been directed quite some time now. We think that somebody's gonna send me a place. And so, Will, let's,
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, hosts, and thank you for being patient.
Please say your name.
Sure.
My name is Troy Oglesby, and I come to you from New Jersey and Delaware. What made me make this trip, and I want to thank Dr. Will, the Dean, Provost Coleman, the distinguished panel, and the moderator. One of the things that makes our community disadvantaged is information and finance. And I'm not like I'm not going to say how old I am, but I've owned my own business for over 40 years. We've been sustainable because I've been able to reach the plateau of being debt-free. But every time my R&D starts a project, it's just like the gentleman that left, it's to problem solve. If you know, and a lot of words have been used here today, we're resilient people. We've been classified disadvantaged, and we have an issue that has to be addressed, which is networking. That's why I'm here. Why I'm here is because we found ways to develop business that solves problems. But it is still a very fundamental principle to success. It's who you know and where. It's the who, what, when, where, and hows. What are you going to do to connect those things to the prevalent issues that need to be solved? We have sustainable energy. We have to be ahead of the curve. One of the things that makes us disadvantaged is we're not at that table when policies are being made and they come out to the public where we're informed. We're already behind that curve. Unless we learn to do research where we know what's ahead. See, my company's already at 2030. We are going to have electrical vehicles, and they're going to be sustainable by EV charging along the highways. Right now, we came in an electric vehicle. Right now, if you don't map out your route, you could run out of electric. And it's not because you aren't traveling a common or a popular road. There's not enough EV charges. So if we're not in that group that decides the policy when it's going to be implemented and connected with the who's and the money, that's why we get a late start. I've seen a lot of companies that had innovation, was another word used here in the panel, that solved the problem, but was underfunded and never got off the ground. So my purpose for being here is to say, what do we do, even overseas? That's our other disconnect, when you look at minority incentives, disadvantaged businesses, out of those businesses, the Black and brown are still the least amount getting those benefits, but they were created under the guise of being minorities. Incentives to level the playing field, but we're getting a lower percentage. There's white female that's disadvantaged. There's minority status for that. So we have a problem with identifying who we actually are in that space. So the purpose for us is, where can we connect directly to the problem that's overseas, where there's a majority of Black and brown? And there's a major need for innovation, like hydroponics, for what they was talking about, the tree and cultivate the ground. Those things, we've had them, but they've been underfunded, and we can't even reach, our arm doesn't reach overseas without USAID. And I'm a member of Kappa Alpha fraternity, so HBCU product. We have enough, and I'm sorry for that. Yeah. There's always a need. But you know what? We still got achievement, we still got togetherness.
And we still share the same year.
But anyway, the thing is to connect. And so I'm here to try and say, we do have Ghost Energy, which is our newest project. It's funded. We could use more funding, and we want to go where it's needed. And so how do we connect with you? Because we already have our education taken care of. We already have all the other things. We need connection through network, solving the problem, and finance that substantiates our growth pattern. That's what we're here for. So we'd love to work with each of you to get those things accomplished. And if you can tell us how we can do that by being a turnkey, then we can do that. And we have three major products for that. We have a food product, We have the energy product and we have sustainable energy product. How can we do that? Connect with you all? And thank you again for everything.
I would say, well, one thing, and then I'm gonna turn over to Shiraz to have him tell you a story, recent story of how we've been connecting more of our minority service institutions overseas. And Dr. Joel and others were there, and Isaacs from Stillman College. But what I would say is, I mean, we have a number of programs like Prosper Africa, like Power Africa, and other Feed the Future, where, you know, we're looking to ensure that other businesses and organizations are part of this and trying to be more inclusive of those representatives, as you talked about in your business. So, you know, we can make sure to connect you, but the fact that we are here today at Medgar Evers College, where nobody ever thought we would ever even come to this college, says here. And so we want this to continue to grow. We want to come to places where we know the talent is here, and we need to also tap that talent. So, you know, you'll see more of us in different places, but we're here, and it was intentional, and we're going to continue to build and grow this. But I'm going to turn it over to Shiraz and maybe talk about the program that was done in Pakistan that really did bring together just what you spoke of.
Good morning, Assalamu alaikum. Just want to share that, for example, as Councillor White mentioned, we've got other activities that support businesses that are growing in the United States and overseas as well. For instance, there's an activity called investment promotion activity, where two businesses combine together and resources are provided to facilitate that connectivity. I'm more than happy to talk to you about that separately as well. But our recent activity that we did in Pakistan was where we brought in minority serving institutions with women colleges. And the story is very similar but different in a way that the similarity is because minorities and underserved communities understand each other. So we thought, let's provide a platform to talk together about solutions. We want problems, but we want problems to be solved. This is the mindset that we need to bring together. When we first started talking about bringing institutions together, the general feedback was, well, international universities are only interested in Ivy Leagues or Bostons. And we went out and asked colleges, are you interested in partnering with people who have the mind, who have the knowledge, who have the fervor to make a difference in this world? And the answer was predominantly yes. So when we had 21 representatives from minority serving institutions in all categories of minority serving institutions come to Pakistan, and I would maybe just ask the individuals that were there, did you feel the love or not? A lot of love, because people respect people want that connectivity. And what that brought about is, ever since that conference has ended, there are just so many initiatives that are being worked on. Stillman, there's now a new program where we can bring minority serving institutions specialists to Pakistan, for example, to spend time about 6 weeks to work on any specific topic that is of interest to both the countries, all funded by US government. There are lots of seminars that are happening. You actually don't need a lot of resources to do good development damage. All you need is just a catalyst. So why we are here is to build that connection. And it'd be lovely to see Medgar Evers come to Pakistan, and we can work together for sure. Thank you.
I just wanted to add something as well. For UNDP, we have a program, 2 initiatives, in fact. One is called the Africa Business Map, and the other one is the SDG Investor Map. These are the 2 initiatives we're putting together to create that connection. Because as you said, there's a lot of need overseas, especially on the African continent. So now we're trying to see how we can get investors together from overseas, how they can now connect to specific SDGs in the fields that they work in, whether it be energy, whether it's environmental resilience, whether it's women's empowerment, and the specific SDGs that we have looking towards 2030. So we can also connect you to find the right businesses in the right fields on the continent that you can invest in to reach these outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please say your name and your affiliation.
Good afternoon. Good morning, panel. Camille McIntosh. I'm an alumni of Medgar College. And what, yeah, I have to say thank you, Dean Rowe, Dean of School of Business, which is where I graduated from. And I'm gonna say this, I run a non-profit organization called Find Community Connection Project. Right now, I have two of my students here, an international student who is actually working with me, and a student who recently graduated from Brooklyn College and a communication background degree. And I say all of this to share that, at Medgar College, you get your degree, the community doesn't end. It just keeps growing, and that, creating this panel is just amazing. It's like when you just said like community partnership, I just looked at Joanne, right? Joanne runs Brooklyn Commons over there, and when Joanne met me, I was just basically with a folder in my hand, walking around with all these great ideas that I want to do, and just didn't know where to go. And she created this space for me to kind of build my organization. Now I actually have an office located in Brooklyn Commons, which is 495 Flatbush. And I say that it didn't end with me. I was like, I have to get up here because it's over 300 small businesses inside of Brooklyn Commons. And these folks have a lot of amazing products that I know they would love to share it and speak to you. So on behalf of them, I'm here to just ask that question, how you can get involved, and also extend, because I'm also, even though I have a non-for-profit, I also work at Brooklyn Commons. I'm part of their management team. We create space for small businesses. This year, we're gonna have our 8th annual small business pop-up, and we would love you guys to come out and share some information. Maybe offline we can connect and see how we can work on that. But I close by saying, Dean Rowe, you always open up the door, and I appreciate you so much. I think the great thing to really be to be able to as well, and even the great things that happen at Medgar College, like you said, you guys could have picked anywhere, but you choose Medgar College, and it's a reason. It's a reason why I'm here. The young man who just came up here, I am also traveling from New Jersey. And, we're in the room where we need to be, and I can extend the invitation. Our 8th annual small business pop-up. It's amazing. The whole building is full with all different small businesses, entrepreneur, a lot of women, Black-owned businesses are in the building. So thank you guys, and thank you, moderator.
Yes, my name is Tracy Gray. I am founder and president of the San Coastal Global Project. Our mission is to increase the number of individuals of color in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I'm also part of the incubator for the Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corporation. I was just in Nigeria last week. And there are businesses on the ground in Nigeria that I was in Lagos and Agege. And where folks are saying, we want to have partnerships with small businesses in America, with small Black-owned businesses, specifically in America. How do we make these connections? Because there's so many barriers when it comes to the government, when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to so many barriers. I have at least 2 businesses in Nigeria that want to do this, that want to connect with this, definitely with my business, specifically around import and export, and around education. What are some practical steps? Other than networking, other than let's connect you here and there, what are some practical steps that you recommend that I go forward in making sure that this can happen? Thank you.
That group, they have, I can say something.
No, I was just gonna say, well, one, I was born in New Jersey, so I'd love to hear that. The other thing I was gonna say is when we talk about sort of how to get more involved or how to engage, I mean, there's a lot that has been taking place with Black-owned businesses and connecting them to the diaspora or other places where I mentioned we've been sending, even having these study tours and bringing people overseas and having these events, to sort of build these collaborations. I think some of it is also, I don't want to just say, as you said, connect you, but really, I mean, I do want to put you in touch with our Office of Small Business, Disadvantaged Businesses, because that's what they do. That is, that is their mandate. And they have goals of how much percentage of our funding actually goes into to small businesses. And I think we're at like, 5 or 6%, no, even I think 10% or so, or higher. And so, there's a national goal that we have to hit every year. And so, but again, I mean, that is their mandate and that's what their responsibility is. The other thing I would also say is, some of our missions in the countries that we work in also have their own programs and activities where they're reaching out and wanting to connect with small businesses. And so it's also looking at what we call our forecast, which gives you an idea of what potential contracts or grants might be coming out there and which countries they might be working with, so that those open up certain opportunities for you to then plan of, oh, if I see this is coming up, maybe I can, do a proposal for this, or maybe I can partner with somebody else and become part of this. So those are two ideas that I would say, and we can, make sure that we get you that information. But that would be helpful.
Any other input?
Yeah, I was gonna say something very similar, but certainly do take advantage of any of the structures that are already in place that address, like Clinton just mentioned, that address specifically that general area. But at the micro level, since it already seems to be, this is something you're already engaged in, I would say just respectfully, get your crew, get your team, your posse together where you are.
Yeah.
Larry's already spoken, he's in New Jersey. He knows Dr. Vicky Casanova, the people that we're networked with in Chicago. The Austin project, the Soul City project that I mentioned in Chicago also, which is networked with the mayor's office. So just in that type of, just that triad right there, in terms of what's taking place in Brooklyn, New Jersey, Chicago, something could be consolidated. And you put together your own team, then you might want to put together some packaging of materials, et cetera, and then that could be submitted. I think the more voices, the greater the commonality, the greater the consensus of thought and the targeting of issues that are at least in alignment with the program requirements that agencies already have in place, and they have the expertise and the fact that you now recognize and put a name to a face, I think creates that additional advantage. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you all.
And I will give you my business card so
Oh, please, thank you.
you can get in touch with me.
Oh, I will.
Wait for you.
And another element, if I can go out not too far while he's here, it's Nigel Salah, who sort of networked with the Caribbean sector. You might also want to exchange information with him as well.
Dr. I just wanted to make a quick point. I was in 2008, I went to Ghana, West Africa. And I was blown away by Ghana, West Africa. I went there because in Trinidad, a lot of people don't know this, but we are the second largest producer of methanol in the world, second largest producer of ammonia. We have the largest LNG complex in the Western Hemisphere. So we are a big energy producer. And I always wondered why African Americans, 98% of the industry is black and brown people. And I always wondered why African Americans didn't take advantage of that, to partner with local companies and to derive some of the benefits. It's happening now. LaShawn is playing a big role with that and other people in the other leaders in the Bronxville area. But Farid and I, we've had a lot of conversations about this. How do we create a corridor between Africa, the Caribbean, and the US diaspora? Are you aware that the African American economy is $200 billion bigger than the Saudi Arabian economy? It's bigger than the Saudi Arabian economy. And my thing is, how do we now build? So I've been preaching this and advocating for it. Build corridors of opportunity between Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora. So, I'm a big advocate. I'm not only an advocate, but I'm working on a number of initiatives around that. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, we need to explore that. One of the ways we can really connect in that regard, to me, in my opinion, first of all, is information about what's available. And the other is building mutual trust. We need that. So it's leadership back home, to the African continent, really need to, think more about the rest of the world than about themselves, their pockets. So I mean, this is an unnatural statement, right? I would like to say, before we come to you, can we hear from somebody in the audience there? Yeah, go ahead.
If you'll permit me,
Your name again, please.
Oh, hi, my name is Alan Siege, and if you'll permit me, very quickly, I run something called the Pitch Show, and it is a pitch contest, but it takes place in clubs with music and, well, drinking. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because the kind of people that I look for as contestants, I describe them as strivers, the not so well connected people who are chasing, if you will, the giants in their industry. And I have a sense that many people here who are starting a business might, well, want to participate, be a contestant, and the winners really do get money. So I'm kind of proud of that. And I don't know if you're interested, I can tell you how to reach me, but I'd love to help some of the people here who, you know, actually would be perfect to participate in this kind of program. So.
Okay, we're almost running out of time. I'd like to give some other.
I just want him to tell us how to reach him. He said he would tell us how to reach him.
Okay, well, I will have 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Okay. 5 more minutes. So, could you please,
Hello, I'm Lamar Wright.
real quick.
Hello, I'm Lamar Wright. My company is the Torman LLC. We're a bespoke lifestyle and branding firm. And I also am the director of partnerships and collaborations for the McBride family office. So I'm speaking in more of the private wealth sector. So hearing about the collaborations with what you guys are doing and funding, right? We all know that people with money only want to make more. Now they understand now we're having bigger conversations about impact investing. Impact investing covers a broad space. So you have your social bonds, your green bonds, and all of that aspect. Can you give me a little bit of idea on how you guys are engaging for the private sector? I know that we're developing metrics and things of that nature because this is an investment opportunity, right? So how are you guys really engaging the private sector to make it a little bit more interesting so that you can get funding? Because what I've, just to give you a little background, what I've been engaging in is with Dean Roll, of course. My company has been we're partnerships in with the HBCU Business Deans Roundtable. And we've been able to connect with them and start engaging on curating an internship that's designed for C-suite entrepreneurship, right? And so I went to my private sector companies and partners and like, look, this is what we're going to do, and this is what you're going to get from your investment into this, of course. So I wanted to just get a little feedback on that. And we've also touched in sustainability, working with the Circular Economy Alliance, which we'll be talking about as well.
All right, any responses?
Well, I would just say, before you leave, you're already networked with Dr. Rowe, and so I think you guys are well prepared from what I've sensed, and now I sort of knew this on paper, but now I can see it in living color. And also the baby touch base, I think he just stepped out, Dr. Isaac McCoy was the dean of very tightly networked with us, and is also the dean of business and entrepreneurship at Stillman College.
Yes.
So if nothing more, just stay within that loop, the information and this conversation continues, and I think we simply take it from there. And that's.
Are you gonna? Any more response? We have room for one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, I mean, for us at USAID, there's a couple of things. One, you know, you have to remember we're part of the federal government. So the budget and funding that we get, we're procuring, you know, with those funds, businesses, whether they're contracts, private, companies, foundations, nonprofit, profit organizations, that they have to compete for these grants. So that's one aspect of it. And so you'll see, as I mentioned earlier, the forecast, the list of things that are going to be out there that people can bid on or put proposals into. The other piece of it is we also look for private sector to leverage the funding, because we know that the government, federal government, as well as our UNDP colleagues who we give money to as well, we give money to the UN. We can't fund everything, and so we actually look to leverage funding from the private sector as well. So there's two things in that, and that's why I'm saying, one, if you're looking for funds that way, where you see what we might have as a proposal or a request for proposals or request for funding or finance, through grants or contracts. That's one way of working with us and seeing, those opportunities. We also try to create, as I said earlier, creating, widening our partner base. So looking at smaller opportunities for somebody to actually work with us and then scale up and grow in that sense, or, looking at opportunities where we put out a grand challenge, like on water or food security, and somebody can actually bid for that and see if they might receive funding for it. So those are a couple of ways where you might be able to get involved if that's something of interest. And, all of that is at our website, but I'll make sure that who runs things here at the school so that she can post it out for you all.
Okay, I would like to, do apologize. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Please, beg you to take one more question. Please don't take more than 30 seconds to answer your question. Maybe 2 minutes to, but if you want to be generous, we can do another 5-7 minutes. So we can close, a very, very,
I just have to leave at 12.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have a hard stop.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't have a question now. I'm an alumni from Medgar as well. I graduated from 2010. I went to Germany to get my master's degree. I'm a senior stakeholder liaison for the federal government, and I work for IRS. The reason why I'm here is somebody mentioned EV car, EV. Somebody mentioned climate change. And we wonder what US government is doing on climate change. And the reason why I'm here to tell you, there was a law that passed in August 2023. It's called IRA, Inflation Reduction Act. And this is the law that allow IRS, the Treasury Department, to provide credit to the taxpayer. So I don't have a lot of time. This is I can go and talk about that because I have a lot to share about, and it's new to us. It's new to everyone. And if you have a business, you can have your own business, provide EV chargers, and you can claim at least $7,000 credit on your tax return. This is an incentive that the government provide for you to open business, to enforce or to promote climate change. All right. All right. It was my professor as well. I have to recognize that. Thank you very much.
I thank everybody for coming. This has been a great session. Especially I want to thank the panelists, because they are leaving, Muhammad, and the rest of them. Thank you again for your presence.
So if there's anyone that wants to tour the building who's not been here before, yes, I'll ask our student government vice president, she's there, she's going to show you the tours of buildings that we have. If you want to take a look. Thank you, yeah.